So there I was one day mindlessly scouring the internet for some running shoe deals, even though I have more than 6 pairs and I only use half of them. The Nike Zoom Fly 6 has been the latest craze by many shoe reviewers, with many of them saying that it's the best super trainer of the year. So obviously, my financially unstable mind had to say, I have to get these. And so here they are. Now, I know these shoes are not made for runners like myself. These are made for much faster, much more agile runners. I just couldn't help myself. I had to try these out. Welcome back to the channel. This is my first ever shoe review. It's not even a shoe review technically, it's actually a first impressions. I've only had about 3 to 4 runs in these things, so I don't want to give a full review just yet. I just want to give some of my thoughts around whether or not these are the best for the slower, heavier, and beginner runners like myself. All right, guys, before we get into the shoe review, a quick disclaimer. This review is not sponsored by any company. Nike did not pay me to make this video. I bought this shoe with my own money. This review and all my reviews going forward will be my honest opinion. Nobody's going to be able to see it beforehand and give me a different opinion on it. I just make these because it's fun. I want to make sure this is specifically for the newer and slower runners like myself, and see if this shoe is specifically worth it. So I just want to give a quick disclaimer before we get into the video. All right, let's go. And so why do I make this shoe review? This kind of goes back to a video I made last year around why not all shoe review and shoe review channels are made equally, and they're not necessarily for all the same types of runners. So a lot of shoe reviewers have raved about this shoe as being the fastest super trainer there is, and obviously I, as someone who is a slow beginner and heavy runner, was hoping that these would do the same. Well, did it? Long story short, kind of, but not really. So give me a chance to explain why I do not recommend these for runners like myself who are on the same kind of journey that I am as a new runner, and why I think we should hold off on this shoe until we have the proper running form and the proper use out of this kind of shoe. Let's go into it. So first and foremost, let's go into the specs. I'm not going to go super detailed into it as some of the other runners do, again, running channels do. I will leave those for them, but I just want to go with some of the stuff that I really noticed when I first picked up this shoe. First was the upper. The woven mesh upper was actually very, very comfortable compared to some of the other Nike stuff that I have tried out. It's breathable. The lockdown is pretty good, and I didn't necessarily feel any hot spots when I was running in these. It does have an 8mm toe drop, a 42 in the heel, and then a 34 in the front for an 8mm drop, which again, I think is good for a shoe like this, which really depends on you going fast. Unfortunately, there is no wide option in these just yet. I end up getting a size 11.5. I'll actually list all of the ones sizes that I normally run in other shoes. I am a wide-footed person, so I prefer wide feet options. Nike only has wide feet for certain kind of the shoes, especially running shoes. I normally would size up to a 12, but the one that was on sale was 11.5 only, so I went with the 11.5, and it does feel good. It's a good lockdown. It's stable enough for my wide feet to go inside. I didn't necessarily feel too much squishing. There is a little bit of squish in the toe box. If I was going to be doing this anything for a long run related, I probably would want a 12, just because I know the lockdown is a little tight for me. It did get a little uncomfortable when I started doing my long runs. I'll go into that a little bit later. As far as the initial fit and feel, the heel feels great. Everything felt great inside. And again, it's very breathable. And the mesh upper does help out a lot. I just wish there was a wider option. And maybe if I could have gone to a size 12, I probably would have done this. I would recommend that for most of you out there if you are wide-footed. If you're not, probably 11.5 or whatever your normal true to size is, I would just stick to that. However, one thing I do want to mention regarding the width of it is that when I did wear my regular running socks, it didn't quite fit very well. I did have to go and get some thinner socks to get the perfect fit. Again, if you're wide-footed, probably would pick up thinner socks to wear in these because they do lock down really tightly. The normal men's size 10 weighs in at 265 grams or 9.3 ounces. My shoes had quite the discrepancy between the left and the right. My left shoe weighed in at 293 grams and the right weighed in at 315 grams. This is quite the difference, but from what I've read, this is pretty common for Nike shoes. Comparing these shoes to my other shoes, like the Nova Blast 5, the right shoe came in at 285 grams. The New Balance SC Trainer V2 was at 301 grams. and the Super Blast 2 was at 300 grams. And mind you, the SC Trainer V2, it does have a carbon plate in it. The Nova Blast and Super Blast do not. So that does kind of indicate why it might be a little bit heavier. The carbon plates on those two may weigh down the shoe a little bit more. I didn't necessarily feel the weight when I was running in these. Because of the plate and because of the foam, you actually don't notice too much of the weight when you are running these things. They do feel pretty light and nimble. So I didn't necessarily take that as a negative. Let's go into the midsole. This shoe does have a Zoom X inside and a SRO2 foam on the bottom. So there is a Zoom X right that is right below your foot, and then you have the fly plate between that, and then you have the SRO2 foam on the bottom. The Zoom X is obviously a lot more squishier, so it feels good when you're stepping in it. And then the SRO2 is a little bit more, I wouldn't necessarily say super less squishy, but it is still squishy. However, it's a little bit more firm compared to the Zoom X. Finally, the cost. These come in at $170 in the US, 155 pounds in Great Britain, and 225 Canadian. Post tariffs, I don't know what that will be like, but definitely not a cheap shoe by any means. Let's go into the pros a little bit. So what did I love about these shoes? Well, it's in the name, fly. These shoes made me feel like I was flying off the ground. They are the fastest shoe I've ever run in. And again, I haven't tried a lot of the speedier stuff. I normally stick to my cushioned daily trainers, but this was the first speed shoe I've ever tried out, and these just absolutely made me fly. The plate in this, the fly plate, is something that I've never felt before. I have ran in plated shoes before, again, the SC Trainer V2 and my running shoes, the Elite V3s, I have a plate in them. But they, I think, are more for stability, whereas this is just more for speed, and you can really feel that. The foam is also very, very bouncy, so it really pushes you off as you're running. It just felt like I was flying all the time. I was able to go record time for myself. For me, the fastest I've ever run before for like a quarter of a mile was around 10 minutes. I was running at 9 minutes easily in these things. It just made me completely feel like I was flying. As I mentioned before, I have only been using these shoes for about 3 to 4 runs now. I've done 2 interval trainings in these. I did an easy run and I did a long run in these. And for interval and the speed work, these were absolutely perfect. And as mentioned during the specs as well, there is no wide-footed version on this just yet, but I didn't notice it too much. Surprisingly, these were very, very comfortable. They were wide enough for my toes. I don't necessarily feel any kind of squinching when I was running. I didn't feel any of my toes hitting the front of it, as some of the other reviewers had mentioned. These fit perfectly like a glove. Another pro, as also run comfort, is that I have had other Nike shoes in the past. They were not necessarily for running. I think I had the Pegasus 37 before, and those I just use as a lifestyle sneaker. The other stuff I've had is basketball shoes, and they are comfortable, but I've always felt like Nike was very, very tight, and some of the upper stuff was not really friendly for my feet. These are the first shoes where I felt really comfortable in. As soon as I stepped in, I was just like, holy moly, these feel great. And the squishiness in the bottom is just right when you're walking around and also when you're running fast. I think the responsiveness you get from the foams below it is great. And then the fly plate is also really good at propulsing you forward. Finally, the colorway of this thing, just love the EK colorway. The Eliud Kipchoge colorway looks fantastic. I've seen the other colorways that they normally sell it in, the pink ones, the black ones, all that stuff. Not the biggest fan of those. They don't look too good, but this colorway looks absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you would have told me before when I became a new runner if I would ever run in orange and white shoes, but for some reason these just attract a lot of attention, and I'm not seeking attention, but these are just really good looking shoes. Unfortunately, they're not the most lifestyle friendly shoes because of the way they look. I don't think I would want to wear these casually. They just look like too much of a shoe, and this weird thing at the back just does not help it at all. But I actually just personally love how this shoe specifically looks. All right, let's get into the cons, and probably the reason why you waited so long in this video. These shoes make me run differently. Let me explain. So the stability in this thing is not that great. As I mentioned before, the foam on the bottom is very squishy, especially in the heel side. If you are somebody who is a heel striker or somebody who does require a little bit more stability, this shoe will not be for you. And this shoe is actually not for me as well. When I run in these things and when I go fast, I have to force myself to run in the midfoot or the forefoot. If I go slowly and I run in the back heel, these just start to wobble too much for me and they're so uncomfortable. You can also tell because of how wide the bottom area is. This measured at 9.1 centimeters from the widest area in the heel, compared to my SC Trainer V2, they measured at 9.5 centimeters, and then my Novablast, it was at a 10. So stability-wise, these shoes, I do not believe are made for runners like myself, who require a little bit more stability, who are just getting new into running and finally picking up the pace and learning how to run longer, and do expect some sort of stability from their shoe to allow them to run longer and as they fix their form. These shoes are not for me. And to add to the heel issues that I had, I did notice a lot of heel slippage when I was running in this. I had to actually tie a runner's knot when I run in this, and this is the first shoe that I've ever ran in where I had to do a runner's knot. I ran about 2 or 3 miles in these things, and I started to notice that my heel was just slipping left and right. I tightened as much as I can, still didn't help at all. Then I finally had to go into the runner's knot, and that really secured it in place. And because of that, as you can see here, the lacing is not that great. I get barely enough for one round, and it took my fat fingers a while to get it to be this thin, just because you cannot tie this so securely with how much laces you're given after the runner's knots. And last but not least, the con of this, and I noticed this specifically when I was running in my long run, it was not fun long run wise. This shoe does not want you to run slow. It wants you to run fast, and it wants you to run fast consistently, or be at a tempo pace consistently. If you start to slow down a little bit, if you go into your zone 2 training, easy runs and all that kind of stuff, this shoe will not cooperate with you. It's because of the stability issues in the heel, also the squishiness of the foam at the heel. I just start noticing my feet are wobbling like crazy when I start to back off my fast pace and I'm running it slow. So I did a 6-mile run in this. That was probably the worst 6 miles I've ever ran in my entire life. I was just looking at my watch and I was like, please God, let this be over, because I am having to run so differently when I'm running in these shoes. As soon as I started to depend on my heel or depend on some stability when I would start running slower, I just noticed that this shoe did not like it at all, and it forced me to run fast consistently. I also noticed it a lot when I was running slower. I noticed it in my shins as well as my Achilles, because again, it wants you to push forward. It wants you to consistently move fast as you can, engage the foam right away. And if you slow down, everything slows down in it, and it just was not a comfortable feeling at all. And so that's when I really noticed that this shoe is definitely not made for me or runners like myself. As I get better with my running form, as I start to depend less on stability, this may work for me. Hey, Edward Tapas here. One thing I forgot to mention as far as the cons go is also the grip on these things. It is not the best compared to some of the other shoes that I run in. It looks like it should be a pretty solid grip. However, when I did run in these in the wet weather, I did notice a little bit of slippage underneath the foot when I was running in some of the puddles. Compared to like my Super Blast 2 or my Brooks Glycerin Max, those have superb grip, and I've run in the rain with those, no issues at all, no slippage whatsoever. These are kind of on par with the Novablast 5, where it is a little slippery. So here's your verdict, and you guys have probably already guessed this if you have kept up with me throughout this whole video. This shoe is a no-go for slow, beginner, and heavier runners, at least in my opinion. The reason is because, as I mentioned in the cons, this instability in the bottom, the constant movement of my heels, and the lack of real connection to the shoe when you're running slow is the biggest reason why I cannot recommend this to you guys. Another con of this as well is the price tag, $170 for a super train like this. It's also ridiculous for me. I know Nike has a lot of sales, and eventually these will start going on sales, and I think it was already on sale during the Christmas time. The pink version was. I got this on sale from another website for like 20% off, so I had to jump on it. So if you can get this shoe for around $100, $110, I may say it's worth your investment. But for currently at $170, you are way better off with some other shoes like the Novablast 5. If you're a new runner, these are the way to go because they do everything this shoe does. Granted, this shoe is definitely a lot faster, but this shoe will get you through your easy and long runs, as well as give you the necessary speed for the slower runs as well. And no plate, and they're also lighter weight too. And also, to add to the $170, this shoe is essentially, for me in my style of running, is a one-trick pony. It's just for speed. That's all it is for, right? And so I don't know if I necessarily would want to spend that much money for just one type of workout that I would do once a week. If I was a new beginner runner, if I was someone heavier and slower, I probably would want a shoe that's going to do a lot of things for me the whole week. That way I don't have to really consistently switch through shoes back and forth, or have different kind of shoe rotation for just one specific type of run. It does dawn on me that my first ever shoe review is kind of a negative one, but this is the reason why I wanted to make these kind of reviews, because again, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of shoe reviewers out there that are really hyping this shoe up. And a lot of new and slower runners like myself will want to try it out, because I'm like, hey, that shoe is going to make me run fast. And they say it can do everything. So let me just go out and buy it, because this will solve all my issues that I'm having. Because the real reason why I'm running slow is because my shoes. And sometimes that could be the case. However, in this case, it's not really the shoe itself. It's just our running form and the work that we have to put into it consistently. And if you're starting off new as a new runner, take it from me, somebody who is also a new runner, you need stability in your shoes, at least some form of stability. I'm not saying all the shoes that I run in have the best stability features. There are actual stability specific shoes out there. However, you need some kind of stability to get you going straight and keep you comfortable as you are pushing forward. However, these shoes are not it, because of the instability on the bottom. The foam and everything does not work. You will start to run differently. You'll feel a little bit more pain when you're running in these, because you're trying to run just on a forefoot or the midfoot, and it may not be that natural for you. If you are naturally like that and you can carry your weight properly and you're able to transfer the weight properly, then this is going to be okay. However, I feel like most of the other heavy runners like myself, we just won't fit with this shoe. Again, not because it's the shoe's fault. I think it's because this shoe is not made for us. I guess, now that I think about it, there is another reason why you may consider the shoes is for racing. If you want to try a 5K on this could be a good shoe, because again, it's propelling you forward. Anything longer than that, wouldn't recommend it. And again, would you want to spend $170 for a 5K shoe? Probably not. There are much better shoes out there that are a lot cheaper. Maybe even your daily trainer is going to be a better option for you, because it'd be a lot cheaper and you're comfortable in it, and you know when you can pick up the pace. All right, well, there you have it. That is my first review of the Nike Zoom Fly 6. It is an initial review. I may do a long-term review as I start to do more training sessions in it. I don't think my opinion is going to change necessarily, but if you guys want a long-term one, please let me know in the comments below. The next shoe I'll be running in and testing out will be the Adidas Prime X2 Strung. I got that on an insane deal. Again, another shoe that is not made for us. I'll preface that. I will be giving you guys my initial review of that shoe, and I'll be doing a long-term review of the Super Blast 2 and the Nova Blast 5, two shoes that I think are definitely worth it for beginner runners and worth the investment, because it can do everything for us. I'll do a long-term review of that shoe as well. All right, thank you guys so much, and thank you again for all the new followers. Continue to follow my journey as I go into my marathon plan. I am about 4 months out from a half marathon and about 6 months out from my full marathon. I'll continuously update you guys on my weekly progress, as well as do some more shoe reviews. If you have any specific shoes that you recommend I try out or you want me to review, please let me know in the comment below. Hopefully nothing expensive. My budget's a little tight, but I definitely will try it. I know the Evo SL is trying to come out. I am considering picking that up and giving that a shot as well, to see if it does compare against the Nova Blast 5 and the other shoes that I have. Stay tuned for that. But again, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time.